Hey guys, welcome back. Today's topic is transportation in human beings. This is from the chapter Life Processes of Class 10 Biology. Let's begin with the today's session. Here, the human circulatory system consists of muscular chambered heart, a network of closed branching blood vessels and blood. Okay, so these are the components of human circulatory system: heart, blood vessels and the blood. Okay, here blood is a fluid connective tissue. It consists of fluid medium called plasma, in which the cells are suspended. Here, this plasma is straw colored. Okay, this is straw colored fluid, and this is viscous. Okay, straw colored viscous fluid, and this plasma, it is about 55% of blood. Okay, 55% of blood is plasma. Okay, and here it contains 90 to 92% water. Okay, and 6 to 8 percentage of proteins. Okay, so these are some important aspects related to plasma. I repeat this once again. Plasma is a straw colored viscous fluid. Okay, it is 55% of blood, and it has 90 to 92% water, and 6 to 8% of it is proteins. Okay, and here the proteins like albumins, okay, globulins, fibrinogen. Okay, these are the proteins present inside, okay, the plasma. And these proteins, if we look here, albumins, they have important role in maintaining the osmotic balance. Okay, globulins, they have role in defense mechanisms, and fibrinogen has important role in coagulation of blood. So these are the different proteins present in blood plasma. Okay, not only this, here we also find certain salts, okay, inside this plasma. Okay, sodium, potassium, bicarbonate, okay, chloride, calcium, all these ions are present in plasma. Okay, so along with these different contents, the cells, okay, these are called formed elements. These are called formed elements are present in blood, and here they include RBCs, okay, WBCs, okay, and the platelets. So these are the formed elements or the cells present in this blood. Okay, so here the blood consists of the fluid medium called plasma, in which the cells are suspended. Here RBCs, WBCs and platelets, these are the formed elements that are suspended in the fluid called plasma present in the blood. Okay, now moving to the continuation. Plasma transports food materials, carbon dioxide and nitrogenous wastes in dissolved form. Okay, so the food materials are dissolved. The carbon dioxide and nitrogenous wastes are also dissolved in plasma, and they are transported. Okay, and oxygen is carried by RBCs. In RBC, there is a protein called respiratory protein, and it is nothing but the hemoglobin. Okay, so this is hemoglobin. It is a respiratory protein, and this is transporting the oxygen. Okay, and many other substances like salts are also transported by the blood. So these are the various substances transported by blood. It is transporting the food materials, carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste, oxygen, various salts, hormones, and so many other things are transported in blood. Okay, so here, thus, we need a pumping organ. There is a need of pumping organ, because here all these substances have to be transported from one part of the body to another part. So there is a need of pumping organ, okay, to push blood around the body, okay, a network of tubes to reach all the tissues. So there is a need of pumping organ, and also there is a need of, okay, here network of tubes, network of tubes, and these network of tubes, they are nothing but the blood vessels and the blood capillaries. Okay, here, this is how. One more important concept is a system is needed, okay, that is maintaining this whole mechanism. Okay, a system in place to ensure that the network can be repaired if damaged. Okay, a system to repair if there occurs any injury. So all these are necessary. 1. Pumping organ. 2. The network of tubes. 3. A system to repair if there occurs any injuries or the damage in the system. Okay, so these are necessary for the transportation system to work efficiently. Okay, now the continuation part here. The heart, this is our pump. Okay, in our body, the pump is the heart. Okay, the heart is a muscular organ which is as big as our fist size. Okay, and it has different chambers, okay, to prevent the oxygen rich blood from mixing with the blood containing carbon dioxide. Okay, so there are 4 different chambers. These 4 different chambers prevent the mixing up of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Okay, so this is how you can see here a picture of human heart with 4 chambers. Okay, you can see here, this is left atrium, okay, or left auricle, number 1, this. Okay, number 2, this is, okay, left ventricle. Okay, and here you can see this is right atrium, and here the right ventricle. So here we find the upper chambers are called auricles. Here left atrium and right atrium, these are the auricles, and here the lower chambers are called ventricles. Okay, so these are ventricles, left ventricle and the right ventricle. Okay, so these are the 4 chambers present in the heart. Now you can see here this 4 chambers, they are separated by the septa. Okay, septa are the wall-like structures. Okay, you can see here the septae. Between the 2 auricles, interauricular septum. Between the 2 ventricle, interventricular septum. Between the auricles and ventricles, auriculoventricular septum. So the wall-like structures, they are separating these 4 chambers of the heart. Okay, and this human heart, it is situated in the thoracic cavity. It is situated in the thoracic cavity, and it is between 2 lungs. Okay, it is between 2 lungs. Okay, now it is slightly towards left. It is slightly towards left. Now it is protected by pericardial sac. Okay, this is what we call pericardial sac. Okay, it is filled with the fluid called pericardial fluid. Okay, so surrounding this heart there is a pericardial sac, okay, with 2 membranes. Okay, outer pericardium, inner pericardium, parietal and visceral. Okay, so this pericardial fluid, is present inside this pericardial sac. This protects the heart from the mechanical injuries. Okay, so here the heart is protected by a double walled membranous bag called pericardial sac. Okay, this pericardial sac is enclosing the pericardial fluid, which is protecting the heart from mechanical injuries. Okay, now between the right atrium, okay, this is right atrium, and right ventricle, okay, this is right ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle, this is what we call tricuspid valve. Okay, so tricuspid valve between right atrium and right ventricle, and between left atrium and left ventricle, this is called bicuspid valve. Okay, this is bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Okay, so these are the valves. They are regulating the flow of blood from auricles into ventricles. Okay, so this is about the valves. The valves present between auricles and ventricles. They are the auriculoventricular valves. Similarly, here we find semilunar valves, and this is called aorta, the largest artery. Okay, here you can see this is the opening, this is the starting opening of this aorta, and this is called aortic valve. This is called aortic valve. Okay, and here one more artery, this is called pulmonary artery. At this opening one more valve is present, and this valve is called pulmonary valve. Okay, pulmonary valve. Okay, so this is how we find the four different valves. I repeat here: 1 tricuspid valve, 2 bicuspid valve or mitral valve, and 3 aortic valve, and the 4 pulmonary valve. Okay, this 1 and 2 tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve, these are auriculoventricular valves. They are present between auricles and ventricles. Okay, and here the third and fourth aortic valve and pulmonary valve, these are called semilunar valves. Okay, they are present at the openings of the arteries. Okay, so this is about the structure of human heart. Okay, it is located in the thoracic cavity between the two lungs. Slightly it is towards the left side, and its size is fist size. Okay, now the valves present between these chambers, they are called septae. Okay, interauricular septum, interventricular septum, auriculoventricular septum. So these are the valve-like structures called septae. Okay, and here you can see the pulmonary arteries. Okay, they are carrying blood, okay, towards lungs. Pulmonary veins bring blood from the lungs. Okay, and here you will find vena cava. Okay, it carries deoxygenated blood from upper parts of the body to this right atrium, and here you can see inferior vena cava. It brings deoxygenated blood from lower parts of the body to right atrium. So this is about the structure of human heart. Okay, it is our pump. It pumps blood to different parts in the body. Okay, now the continuation part of this here, heartbeat. One important structure called SAN, sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node. Okay, this is a patch of nodal tissue. It is present in right atrium, right corner at here. Okay, this is right atrium. In the right corner it is present. Okay, so this is the location, right atrium, right corner, and this sinoatrial node is responsible for initiating and maintaining the rhythmic contractile activity of the heart. So it is initiating the heartbeat. Okay, so which structure, which tissue is initiating the heartbeat? The answer is SAN, sinoatrial node. So because it is initiating and maintaining the rhythmic contractile activity of the heart, this SAN is called natural pacemaker. Okay, this is called natural pacemaker. Okay, now our heart normally beats 70 to 75 times per minute. Okay, on an average 72 beats per minute. Okay, this is the average value. Okay, so this is how the heartbeat is initiated, and it is maintained because of the functioning of sinoatrial node, also called natural pacemaker, and the heartbeat rate is 72 beats per minute. Okay, now moving to one more important concept here, the heart sounds. Okay, when a patient go to doctor uses a stethoscope to hear the heart sounds. You can see these are the two sounds. The first sound, this is called, okay, the lub sound, and the second sound, this is called the dub sound. Okay, and here the lub sound is caused by the vibration set upon by the closure of the tricuspid and bicuspid valves simultaneously. Okay, so atrioventricular valves, when they are closed simultaneously. So these are present between auricles and ventricles. When these valves close simultaneously, the lub sound is produced. Okay, and the second sound, the dub sound, is caused by the closure of the semilunar valves, both semilunar valves simultaneously. Here these are aortic valve, and the second is systemic valve. Okay, these are the two valves. When they are closed simultaneously, the second sound, the dub, is produced. Okay, now here the lub sound, it is low pitched, not very loud, okay, and of longer duration. Okay, so here the first sound, the lub sound, is of low pitch, okay, and it is not very loud, but it is for longer duration. Okay, and the dub sound is high pitched, louder, and okay, it is shorter in duration. So these are the differences between the two heart sounds, the lub sound and dub sound. One important concept for competitive exams. Okay, now moving to the next, after this, here one more important concept here is cardiac cycle. Okay, here whenever this heart is continuously working, okay, heart is continuously working, so that is what we call cardiac cycle. Here the sequential events occur, the sequential events, okay, in the heart, the sequential events in the heart, okay, which is cyclically repeated. Okay, they are repeated cyclically. Okay, and this is what we call cardiac cycle. Okay, it consists of systole and diastole. It consists of systole and diastole. Systole is contraction, okay, diastole is relaxation. Okay, so this is how systole and diastole of auricles and ventricles is found during the cardiac cycle, and these are the sequential events in the heart which are cyclically repeating again and again. Okay, here if we check the joint diastole, okay, so this is the complete cardiac diastole, or we can say joint diastole. Okay, we can say joint diastole. So here both auricles and ventricles, they are relaxed, that is joint diastole. Okay, and this is lasting for 0.4 seconds. Okay, this is for about 0.4 seconds. Okay, and after that, in the next atrial systole, means auricles contract. Okay, so this is for about 0.1 second. Then after that, ventricular systole, so here this is for about 0.3 seconds. Okay, so this, during this, the ventricles contract. You can imagine what happens during joint diastole. When all the chambers are relaxed, the blood flows into auricles. Okay, the oxygenated blood flows into left atrium. Okay, so here you can see in this diagram, you will understand better. Okay, during joint diastole, all these chambers are relaxed, and as a result, oxygenated blood enters into left auricle, deoxygenated blood enters into right auricle. Okay, now in the second stage, here the second event in the cardiac cycle is atrial systole. Atrial systole means auricles will contract. You can see here, when both the auricles contract, what happens? When this auricle contracts, the blood flows into ventricle. When this one contracts, the blood flows into ventricles. Okay, so when both the auricles contract, the blood in the auricles flow into ventricles. This is what happens during atrial systole. And the third event is ventricular systole. Now, blood is in the ventricles, so they contract. When both the ventricles contract, the blood is flowing into arteries. Okay, from the left ventricle, blood flows into aorta. From the right ventricle, the blood flows into pulmonary artery. So this is how the three events they are repeating. Okay, they are cyclically repeated, and this is what we call cardiac cycle. And the total duration of each cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. And here joint diastole 0.4 seconds, atrial systole 0.1 second, and ventricular systole 0.3 seconds. Total duration is 0.8 seconds. Okay, so this is about cardiac cycle. Now what happens? Let's see the further details. Okay, the carbon dioxide rich blood has to reach the lungs for the carbon dioxide to be removed, and the oxygenated blood from the lungs has to be brought back to heart. So these events must occur. Okay, how they can occur? Because of the pumping action of the heart. This is possible. Okay, this oxygen rich blood is then pumped to the rest of the body. Okay, so deoxygenated blood from lungs is brought to deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body is brought to heart, and from there it is carried to lungs. And the oxygenated blood from lungs is carried to heart, and from heart it is carried to different parts of the body. Okay, now here the oxygen rich blood from the lungs, oxygen rich blood is from the lungs, it comes to the thin walled upper chamber of the heart, that is left atrium. Okay, the left atrium relaxes when it is collecting this blood. Okay, you can see here in this picture, these are the pulmonary veins. Okay, the pulmonary veins you can see here. These are the pulmonary veins. They bring oxygenated blood from lungs, okay, into this left atrium. Okay, now after this what happens? Let's check. Here you can see the left atrium then contracts, while the next chamber, the left ventricle, relax. Okay, left atrium contracts and the left ventricle relax. Okay, so that the blood is transferred to it. So from the atrium, the blood is transferred into ventricle. Here the atrium is contracting and the ventricle is relaxing. So the blood flowing into left ventricle. Okay, when the muscular left ventricle contracts, then in turn the blood is pumped out to the body. Okay, so when the ventricle is contracting, the blood is pumped into the arteries which carry the blood to different parts of the body. Okay, so after this you can see deoxygenated blood comes from the body to upper chamber on the right, and that is right atrium as it relaxes. Okay, as the right atrium contracts, the corresponding lower chamber, the right ventricle, dilates. Okay, and when the right ventricle dilates, this transfers the blood to right ventricle, okay, which in turn pumps it to the lungs for oxygenation. Okay, here one very important aspect is there are valves. These valves ensure that blood does not flow backwards when the atria or the ventricles contract. Okay, so this is how in this picture once again you can see the oxygenated blood is entering into left atrium, from here into left ventricle, from here into aorta. The deoxygenated blood comes into right atrium, from here into right ventricle, then from here into pulmonary artery, which is carrying the deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation. So these are the events that we have discussed till now. Okay, now after this, here we discussed the valves. There are 4 different valves just now I mentioned. 1 tricuspid valve, okay, 2 bicuspid valve, okay, and the 3 aortic valve, and the 4 pulmonary valve. Okay, So these four valves, they are playing very important role. Okay, they ensure that the blood does not flow backwards. Okay, these four valves in the heart, they ensure that the blood does not flow backwards when the atria or the ventricles contract. So this is the important function performed by the valves in the heart. Okay, now after this, the separation of the right side and the left side of the heart is useful to keep oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from mixing. This is very, very important. Okay, the separation of the right side and the left side. There is right auricle, right ventricle, left auricle, left ventricle. So this separation of the right side and the left side of the heart is useful to keep oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from mixing. Okay, so here you can see in this picture, you will understand better. Okay, this is left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle, left side chambers are separated from right side chambers. There are septa, the wall like structures. So this is how the left side and right side, they are separated, and this is very much important. So to prevent the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay, such separation allows a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body. So as the oxygenated blood is not mixing with the deoxygenated blood, there is efficient supply of oxygen to the body, and this is useful. This is useful in animals, okay, that have high energy needs, okay, such as birds, mammals, okay, which constantly use energy. Okay, they use energy, okay, to maintain body temperature, to maintain their body temperature. So this is one of the very important mechanism. Okay, so such separation of left side and right side chambers in the heart is very much useful to keep oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from mixing, and such separation allows a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body, and this is very much useful in animals that have high energy needs, okay, like birds and mammals. They use this energy to maintain body temperature. Okay, so this is what needed. Okay, now in animals that do not use energy for this purpose, okay, the body temperature depends on the temperature of the environment. Okay, so there are certain animals which do not use energy to maintain their body temperature. In those animals, okay, their body temperature depends on the environmental temperature conditions. Okay, so here this is one of the very important concept for exams. Okay, now amphibians, okay, and many reptiles, have three chambered hearts, okay, and tolerate some mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood streams. Okay, so oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood is mixing in these animals to some extent. In these animals, the energy is not used to maintain their body temperature. These animals, okay, these are cold-blooded animals. Okay, the temperature of their body depends on the environmental temperature. Okay, but in case of birds and mammals, okay, these are warm-blooded animals. Okay, warm-blooded animals maintain constant body temperature, and for that purpose they need energy. Okay, and for that highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body is needed. Okay, now moving to the next, fishes have only two chambers, okay, to their hearts. Okay, in their heart there are only two chambers, okay, and the blood is pumped to the gills, okay, is oxygenated there and passes directly to the rest of the body. So here in fishes, they have only two chambers in the heart. Okay, so here the blood is pumped to the gills. Okay, it is oxygenated and that oxygenated blood is directly passing to the rest of the body. Thus, blood goes only once through the heart in the fish during the one cycle passage through the body. This is single circulation. Okay, this is single circuit circulation. Okay, on the other hand, it goes through the heart twice during each cycle in other vertebrates. Okay, so in other vertebrates, okay, you can see including humans. Okay, including humans. Okay, we find double circulation. Okay, this is what we call pulmonary circulation. This is pulmonary circulation, and this is what we call systemic circulation. This is what we call systemic circulation. So the blood is passing through the heart two times to complete the circuit. This is what we call double circuit circulation. Double circulation, this is seen in humans. Okay, you can see during pulmonary circulation, blood is passing from heart to lungs and from lungs to heart. From heart, deoxygenated blood is carried to lungs, and from lungs, oxygenated blood is carried to heart. This is what we call pulmonary circulation. In case of systemic circulation, the blood is carried from heart, okay, to body parts, and from body parts to heart. Okay, so here heart is carrying, okay, heart is pumping the oxygenated blood to all the body parts, and from all the body parts, deoxygenated blood is carried to heart. Okay, so this is what we call systemic circulation. So as the blood is passing through the heart twice, it is called double circulation. It is seen in humans. Okay, in humans, double circulation is seen. It is preventing the mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood, and as it is prevented, the mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood streams is prevented, so that will supply, okay, oxygen very highly efficiently, okay, to all the body parts. Okay, so this is very much essential in the animals which use energy to maintain their body temperature. Okay, now one more important concept here is blood pressure. Okay, the force that the blood exerts against the wall of a vessel is called blood pressure. Okay, so here this pressure is much greater. Okay, this pressure is much greater, okay, in arteries, okay, than in veins. This is one important statement. Okay, the pressure is much greater in arteries than in veins. Okay, so the force that the blood exerts against the wall of a vessel, if we look here, suppose this is a blood vessel, okay, and the blood is flowing in this direction. Let's suppose while the blood is flowing in this direction, it can exert the force on the walls. Okay, so this force exerted by the blood against the wall of a vessel is called blood pressure. Okay, and here we find systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systole is nothing but contraction. Okay, diastole is nothing but relaxation. Okay, so systolic pressure, the pressure of blood inside the artery during ventricular systole. Okay, when the ventricles contract, the pressure of blood inside the artery. Okay, let us assume this is the artery. When the ventricle contracts, the pressure of blood inside this artery is called systolic pressure. Okay, and opposite to that, the pressure in the artery during ventricular diastole, when ventricles relax, during that time, the pressure of blood, okay, in the artery, that is what we call ventricular. Okay, this is diastolic pressure. Okay, so systolic pressure is during ventricular systole, that ventricles contract. Okay, diastolic pressure, ventricles relax. Okay, and this is what we call blood pressure, the force that the blood exerts against the wall of an artery. Okay, and here continuation part of this, the normal systolic pressure is about 120 mm of Hg and the diastolic pressure is 80 mm of Hg. So the normal blood pressure is 120 by 80. This is 120 mm of Hg. This is 80 mm of Hg. Okay, and this is what we call systolic pressure. 120 is systolic pressure, 80 is diastolic pressure. Systole is contraction of ventricles and diastole is relaxation of ventricles. Okay, and this blood pressure is measured with an instrument called sphygmomanometer. Okay, so here the instrument used for measuring the blood pressure is sphygmomanometer. Okay, and here one very important concept is high blood pressure. Okay, or it is also called hypertension. Okay, or high BP. This is because of constriction. This is because of constriction of arterioles. Okay, these arterioles are the branches of the arteries. Okay, so here high blood pressure or the hypertension is due to constriction of arterioles. Okay, and these arterioles are the branches of the arteries, and because of the constriction of arterioles, okay, it results in increased resistance. Okay, because of the constriction of the arterioles, there is increased resistance to blood flow. Okay, and it can lead to rupture of an artery and can cause internal bleeding. Okay, so these are the harmful consequences of hypertension. Okay, so the hypertension is due to constriction of arterioles. Because of the constriction of arterioles, there is an increased resistance to blood flow, and because of this high blood pressure is seen. This could lead to internal bleeding. Okay, now here till now we discussed about heart and the blood. Now the tubes, the blood vessels, let's discuss few aspects about this. Okay, here mainly arteries and veins. Okay, here mainly arteries and veins. So let's discuss about these arteries and veins. Okay, arteries carry blood away from the heart. Okay, arteries carry blood away from the heart to various organs of the body. So generally they carry oxygenated blood. Okay, but there is exception. There is exception. Pulmonary artery. Okay, there is pulmonary artery which is carrying deoxygenated blood. And here the veins, they collect the blood from different organs and bring it back to the heart. Here generally veins, they are bringing, okay, which type of blood? They are bringing deoxygenated blood. Okay, but there is again exception. Okay, exception here is except pulmonary vein. Okay, so what does this pulmonary veins carry? Pulmonary veins, they carry oxygenated blood. Okay, now arteries, they have thick walls, they have elastic walls. Okay, veins, they do not need thick walls. Okay, because the blood flow is no longer under pressure. I repeat this once again. Arteries have thick and elastic walls. Veins, they do not need thick walls because the blood is no longer under pressure. Okay, now here the arteries do not have valves. Okay, the arteries do not have valves, but here the veins, they have valves that ensure the blood flows only in one direction. Okay, here inside the veins there are valves, and these valves ensure that the blood is flowing in one direction. Okay, so these are the differences between arteries and veins. Okay, arteries carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. Veins carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary veins. Okay, arteries have thick and elastic walls. Okay, veins do not need thick walls. Okay, and here arteries do not have valves. Veins have valves which ensure that the blood is flowing in one direction. Okay, now after this, the continuation part of this, the tubes on reaching an organ or tissue. Okay, the artery divides into smaller and smaller vessels to bring the blood in contact with all the individual cells. Okay, so this is what needed. Very important statement. Okay, on reaching an organ or tissue, an artery is divided into smaller and smaller vessels. Okay, so like this, if we suppose this is artery, then it is dividing like this into branches. Okay, okay, so this is 1, 2, 3 branches. For suppose, let's assume. Okay, so this is artery, these are the branches of the arteries. Okay, so on reaching an organ or tissue, the artery is divided into smaller and smaller vessels. Okay, to bring the blood in contact with all the individual cells, and the smallest vessels have walls which are one cell thick, and they are called capillaries. Okay, so the smallest blood vessels which have one cell thick walls, they are called capillaries. Okay, and here in these capillaries, exchange of materials. Okay, exchange of materials. Okay, between blood and surrounding cells. Okay, so between blood and surrounding cells, the exchange of materials occur through these walls of the capillaries. Okay, the capillaries then join together to form veins that convey the blood away from the organ or tissue. So the artery is bringing the blood towards the tissues, and the veins are carrying the blood away from the tissues. Okay, now moving to the next, the continuation process, maintenance of platelets. Okay, so maintenance by platelets. Okay, in the beginning we discussed a system is needed to cause repairing of the injuries, and that is what here the platelets present in the blood, they are playing important role in this. Okay, if this system of the tubes develops a leak, it would lead to loss of pressure. Okay, so if the system of tubes develops a leak, it would lead to a loss of pressure, which would reduce the efficiency of the pumping system. Okay, so to avoid this, the blood has platelet cells, okay, which circulate around the body and plug these leaks by helping to clot the blood. Okay, so here at the points of injury, the blood clotting occurs, so that it is maintained in normal conditions. Okay, so what is happening here? If the system of tubes develops a leak, if the blood vessels develop a leak, it would lead to loss of pressure, which would reduce the efficiency of the pumping system. Okay, so to avoid this and to maintain the normal efficiency in the pumping system, okay, the blood has the platelet cells which circulate around the body and plug these leaks by helping to clot the blood at these points of injury. Okay, so this is how maintenance process occur in the body by the help of platelets. Okay, now here one more important fluid connective tissue is lymph. Okay, so another type of fluid called lymph or tissue fluid is also involved in transportation. Okay, it is similar to the plasma of blood but colorless and contains less protein. So when compared with the blood, okay, lymph is colorless. It contains less protein when compared with the blood. Okay, so here through the pores present in the walls of the capillaries, if this is artery, if these are the capillaries, okay, if these are the capillaries, okay, here we find the pores in the walls. Okay, so through these pores like this, okay, what can happen? Some amount of plasma, some proteins, and some blood cells can escape into the intercellular spaces. Okay, and as a result the tissue fluid is formed or the lymph is formed. Okay, when the blood is flowing in this direction, let's suppose through the pores present in the capillary walls, okay, some amount of plasma, some amount of proteins, okay, some amount of blood cells, okay, some few blood cells, especially leukocytes, because they don't have a definite shape, they can escape. Okay, so these components can ooze out of these capillary walls. Okay, and this is what we call, okay, diapedesis. Okay, so this is how the lymph is formed. This fluid which is present between the spaces in the cells in tissues, okay, that is what we call tissue fluid or interstitial fluid or the lymph. Okay, now here the lymph drains into lymphatic capillaries, okay, from the intercellular spaces. Okay, so this fluid, the lymph, is drained into lymphatic capillaries from the intercellular spaces which join to form large lymph vessels. The lymphatic capillaries join together to form large lymph vessels that finally open into larger veins. Okay, so the lymph which is present in the intercellular spaces will drain into lymphatic capillaries which enter into lymphatic vessels which finally open into larger veins. Okay, now the lymph carries digested and absorbed fat. Okay, very important. The lymph carries digested and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from the extracellular space back into the blood. Okay, so this is how it is maintaining blood volume. Okay, so it is maintaining the blood volume. It has an important role in maintenance of blood volume. It is carrying the digested and absorbed fat from intestine, and also it is draining the excess fluid from extracellular space back into the blood. Okay, this is how it maintains blood volume. Now if we check here the differences between lymph and blood. Okay, so here lymph is colorless and contains less protein, and here the blood red color due to the presence of hemoglobin, and it contains more protein. Okay, lymph, RBCs, platelets are absent, but here RBCs, platelets are present. Okay, relatively less number of WBCs, and here relatively large number of WBCs are seen. Okay, and it acts as a middleman, okay, between blood and cells. Okay, so it is transporting the nutrients and oxygen to the cells, and from the cells it is transporting waste and carbon dioxide into the blood. So between blood and cells the lymph is acting as a middleman, and here the blood is acting as a vehicle. It is transporting nutrients. Okay, it is transporting the gases, it is transporting the wastes, it is transporting the hormones. Okay, so many things are transported here in the blood, so it is acting as a vehicle. Okay, so these are the differences between lymph and blood. Okay, so this is what about today's topic. Okay, today I discussed about transportation in human beings. Okay, so human circulatory system consists of heart, blood vessels and blood. Okay, so this is all about today's session. If you are new to my channel, subscribe for more sessions. If you liked it, share it with your friends. I'll be back with more sessions